And now it's my pleasure to reintroduce Jody Dean, who is still not sitting in his seat. Oh my gosh. Yeah. But anyway, Jody is our MC tonight. We'll be interviewing Dr. Perryman. And please welcome Mr. Jody Dean.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Delighted to be here this evening and really honored. I feel somewhat underdressed. I'm so relieved that you're not wearing a tie. I can't begin to tell you. They have an introduction here that I would like to read because some work has gone into this. Number one, research, because Dr. Perryman has done so many things in the course of his career. You really need to write it all down without relying on some disc jockey to remember it. First of all, President, CEO of the Perryman Group, an economic research and analysis firm out of Waco, Texas. Are you going to be at the Texas Tech Baylor game on Saturday?
I'm going to miss that one.
Oh, are you really?
Yeah, I really am.
What kind of Baptist are you?
Hey, man, I'll be in Waco when you mean Odessa.
Oh, okay. All right, good. He holds a BS in mathematics from Baylor University, a PhD in economics from Rice University. According to his bio, he always felt that the BS would have been somehow more appropriate for economics. Did you really say that?
I'm afraid I did, yeah.
Okay. He took his first economics course on a coin flip between economics and psychology. You realize that people who determine the future of their lives via coin flip, probably not the best psychologists available, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's what my wife says.
It says if it had gone the other way, there might have been some really messed up people in the world. I doubt that. In addition to his earned degrees, he's received an honorary doctorate from the International Institute for Advanced Studies, and especially like that one because he didn't have to work for it. That's cute. Told his kids they had to start calling him Doctor, Doctor, and they were not impressed. You have 5 kids.
I have 5 kids.
How old are they?
22 to 28.
22 to 28. Okay, so they're all off the payroll now?
Oh, no.
No.
Oh, no. One of them is.
One of them is. Dr. Perryman has held numerous academic positions in his career, including 10 years as Herman Brown Professor of Economics and 5 years as University Professor and Economist in Residence at Baylor University. This whole thing is the bio, by the way. As well as 5 years as Business Economist in Residence at Southern Methodist University. He's authored several books and more than 400 academic papers. Dr. Perryman is one of those people who actually has 27 hours in a day.
Right.
He served as president of both the Southwestern Economic Association and the Southwestern Society of Economists, the father of 5 young Texans, gets lost on his own block, once ran one of his own cars into another one. His current academic roles include Senior Research Fellow of the IC Squared Institute of the University of Texas, an Institute Distinguished Professor of Economic Theory and Method at the International Institute for Advanced Studies. Wow. He's been named the Outstanding Young Economist and Social Scientist in the U.S., the Outstanding Young Person in the World in Business and Economic Innovation, and one of the 10 Outstanding Young Americans and 10 Outstanding Young Persons in the world. And as the bio reads here, as he loses his hair and puts on his reading glasses, it's highly unlikely he'll ever win another award with the word young in it. I didn't write this, Doctor. I'm sorry. Let's see, anything else? Says his most gratifying work has been in the field of economic development, where he has played a role in the creation of hundreds of thousands of jobs. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Ray Perryman.
Thanks, Jody.
I know I have a list of questions here that we've discussed and that have been prepared, but I do want to go off the map just a little bit.
Please do.
I'm glad to. Economic theory translating into real-world jobs. The theory has to be good. The insight has to be good for that to work because there are a lot of things that are purely academic and don't function in the real world. What's the secret to your success? What do you see that a lot of other economists don't?
Well, I think probably as much as anything, Jody was being raised in a rural part of the state, and Lindale, if anybody cares, over in East Texas, not far from here. And basically, where are you from? Oh, good for you. You're the one. She knows where Lindale is. Okay, it's an exit on I-20 now. It wasn't when I was there. But I do think that sort of gives you a grounding in the real world as you do these things. And I've had worn multiple hats with the academics and the sort of public policy work we've done and that sort of thing. I really always have tried to figure out ways for it to impact people's lives. And I guess part of it probably also came from the fact that I cut my teeth in sort of the public side of economics when I sort of started graduating from academia, if you like, in the early 80s when Texas was going through so much economic difficulty. And this is the worst recession the world has had in a long time. Texas in the 80s was worse than Texas today. We had a really, really rough time in the 80s in Texas. And, basically, it's one thing to see an unemployment rate that tells you hundreds of thousands of people are out of work. It's another thing to shake hands with half of them. And I feel like I did that very early in my career, and it kind of became a very personal thing with me. And maybe that helps. I don't know.
What did your folks do, and what was your first job?
I had so many jobs when I was a kid. It's hard to say. I bent pipes in an oil field factory or an oil field equipment factory, and did a little bit of everything along the way when I was a young person. My dad was a mechanic, and my mom was a school secretary. And I was the first Perryman to finish high school. So
that kind of background in Lindale, Texas, I'm guessing that stewardship was something you learned early.
Oh, absolutely, no question about it. And I grew up. I spent most of the time growing up also on my grandfather's farm in the even smaller community of Red Springs, Texas, which is about 12 miles from Lindale. And yeah, I mean, you really grow up learning the value of the land and what's I think some of the things that are really important in life. And those lessons have not left me, I hope.
You know, they say, I've heard it said anyway, that the two best things in the world for you are dirt under your fingernails and knowing how to make change. and seriously,
well, I've had at least one of those.
Yeah, well, that's good. And you know, the theory of economics is one thing, but in practical application, as you say, when you shake hands with so many people and you actually touch lives, it gives it a different perspective. I want to go back to something you said a minute ago. Texas in the 80s. Correct me if I'm wrong here, because part of our economic situation right now, obviously, is the housing market, that sort of thing. And I'm trying to think if there is any corollary to what we saw in the 80s with the savings and loan collapse, that sort of thing. If there are any parallels there, more importantly, any lessons we can draw from that.
Absolutely. And I think one of the reasons we didn't overbuild as much in Texas this time around is because we invented overbuilding in the 80s. And I think that's a lot of it. Let me just, I don't want to bore you with a bunch of numbers, but let me throw out a few here. In round numbers, Texas gains 400,000 folks every year, which is kind of a remarkable thing in and of itself. Over 1,000 new Texans every day. That's pretty remarkable when you stop and think about it. But, if you figure every time you gain 2.4, 2.5 people, something like that, you got to have a house or apartment to put them in. We need 160,000, 170,000 houses a year in Texas just to kind of keep up with the population growth. And if you figure a few wear out and get destroyed and first one thing another, maybe we need 175,000, 180,000 to just kind of keep things on an even keel year after year after year. At the height of this building boom that the country went through a couple of years ago here, we were building about 215 every year. So we needed 180, we were building 215. So we were overbuilding, but that's not dramatic. Okay? Now let me take you back to 1983, when we were in the process of inventing overbuilding. Okay? We were a smaller state then, so we didn't need 170, 175,000. We needed about 135,000 back then. And we didn't build 215, we built 290. Okay? Now,
everything is bigger in Texas.
That's right. At least that time around. And the problem with that is that the problem, one of the big problems we have in the country right now with all the things that went wrong, we could spend the whole night talking about that. But a lot of other parts of the country statistics today look very much like our statistics looked in the 80s. The average housing price in Texas through this whole thing went down about 2%. Some more, some less, some went up a little bit. But on average, the average housing price in Texas went down 2%. I spoke not long ago at a real estate conference in Orange County, and it just so happened in the zip code I was in, the average value of a house was down 40%. So we really, although we certainly suffered in this downturn, we've done a lot better than other places. And another thing that came out of the 80s that I think probably helped us a lot is, as you know, we lost our big banks in Texas in the 80s. The only semi-big bank that survived was Frost, of all the big banks we had in Texas. Oh, it's Frost out there. Hey, there's a bunch of bankers here. Would you all repeat after me? Yes. Just want y'all to learn that word. It's right in the dictionary. It's in the Y's.
I have an ATM card I'd like to talk to you about here in a few minutes.
Anyway, but if I could just quickly, after that, a lot of new banks started in Texas. We have a lot of regional banks, super regional banks, community banks that are very, very, very strong. And that's one of the things that helped us get through this. They didn't go into the crazy kind of financing like a lot of other places did. And we were very, very fortunate in that regard here in Texas. That's one of the other things that let us not get out of this thing unscathed, certainly, but do a lot better than some other places.
Better position than a lot of other places.
Absolutely.